last month, I've been running 3 miles a day. And that's because over the last couple years, I've been noticing that I'm becoming less disciplined, less motivated, and taking on a lot of bad habits. I don't exercise, I sleep too late, I have a really poor diet. I'm consuming way too much caffeine, especially in the form of energy drinks. And I've spent way too much time on YouTube or social media, just kind of wasting time scrolling through the same thing over and over, especially at night right before bed, which is the time that I spend the most on social media. So for the rest of 2019, I decided that every month I'm gonna tackle a bad habit of mine. And this first month was running 3 miles a day, and then next month I'll do something else, and the month after that. And I don't have expectations that I'll completely get rid of those habits, but I want to at least scale them back so that I'm not as unproductive as I should be. The main point of these monthly challenges, for lack of a better term, is that I just want to build a small stepping stone that I can build on top of for the long term, rather than trying to drastically change what I do like within a month, which I've tried plenty of times, but it's always failed because the change was so drastic that I was very resistant to it and quickly changed back to my old ways. The reason I chose exercise first is because I think exercise comes more naturally to me, not in the sense that I'm genetically gifted or that I'm like hyper athletic, but I think exercising is something easier that I can do than learn a new skill or try to change my diet. So I think that was the easiest and smallest step that I could take towards bettering myself. The reason I chose to run rather than some other activity like lifting weights or playing a sport is mainly three reasons. The first is that it's accessible. You can literally do it anywhere. You can just get up and run. The second is that I can do it at any time. I mostly run at night, but there were a few days where I had to run in the morning because I didn't have time during the day. And the third reason is that it costs nothing. You could just do it. You don't have to buy equipment, buy a membership, do any of that. You just have to run. I would say to invest in a good pair of running shoes, but if you don't have the money, it's still an activity that you can do. So the main issue I had was consistency, where I would go really hard for 2 weeks, and then the second I saw a little bit of progress, I would just quit altogether, just skip a day, and then that would lead to another day, and then into a week, month, even up to a year. And that was something I had to get over. Just because I made a little progress doesn't mean that's the end goal. It's to continuously get better. And that was like a mental plateau that I really had to get over. And that's why I challenged myself to run every single day for an entire month. It really wasn't easy to do, to run every day, especially being that I didn't do any consistent physical activity for probably a year and a half up to that point. Let's just talk about how the month went. All the positives I saw, some of the negatives, and things that didn't really change. The most obvious change is that, I lost some weight. I slimmed down a little bit. I lost a little bit of belly fat. It wasn't anything huge. I could see the small change to keep me going every day. And then I became less sore. Like running became a little bit more routine for me. That's not to say there weren't any hard days, which I'll get into, but yeah, like physical changes was obviously the most clear difference I saw in myself after the month of running every day. The hardest time was probably the first week, when my body was really readjusting to exercising on a daily basis when it didn't for a year and a half. And this wasn't like I gave my body time to ramp up to 3 miles a day. I just went straight from couch to 3 miles a day. I had two choices of how I wanted to tackle this. The first was to just run as long as I could without stopping, or have a distance that I wanted to run every day. And I chose the latter because the thought process of just running until the point where you can't run anymore, I felt that there were too many challenges on that. The first being that I would either run a certain distance and then just kind of get bored and stop, or I would run until my ankles fall off and then I couldn't continue the challenge. So I thought the better option would be to just give myself a certain distance I want to run every day. And the reason I chose 3 miles, I don't know if you want to call it naive, but years ago I used to be able to run 2 miles like fairly easily. So I thought, that's where I stopped and I'm just going to continue from there. But, it wasn't like 2 miles is a cakewalk for me now, but I just had that mindset that I can still do 2 miles fairly easily. So I thought that I would just tack on an extra mile to make it that much more challenging for myself. And it definitely bit me in the butt the first week. I was just sore everywhere. My feet hurt. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I think I did have a minor stress fracture on my foot, but I decided to just run through it. And the reason I did that is, one, I'm stupid, but two, because I didn't want this to be an easy excuse for me to just stop. I've stopped for much smaller reasons than that before, but I just didn't want this to be another excuse for me to stop a challenge that I set out for myself. But my foot turned out fine, so I don't recommend it. And don't say you watched this video and I told you it's okay to run on a broken foot. If week 1 was the physical hurdle I had to get over, week 2 was definitely the mental hurdle, because like I mentioned before, usually about at the 2 week mark is when I see like just a minuscule amount of progress, and that's when I just put my hands in there and I'm just say I'm done. But this time I really wanted to hammer it into myself that, just because you improved doesn't mean this is where you stop. You constantly keep improving. I had to remind myself of that every day, because there were just times where I just didn't want to run, or I wasn't feeling it. I was just down on myself, or I was really happy with the run the day before, and then now it felt like I took a step back. So there were definitely a lot of mental challenges in week 2, but after that, I think it became a lot easier. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were days I didn't want to run in week 3 and 4, but I think getting to that point was very critical, because even if I didn't feel like it, I've now gone past that hurdle and I can will myself to get an exercise in before the day is over. I think the second change that was kind of unexpected was that I think mentally I got better. I was feeling less anxious. I was less stressed. I wasn't quick to anger or lashing out if I was in a very stressful situation. Now that's not to say I think running was fully the reason for it, but I think it definitely played a big part. And I think that really helped me get through this month, because this month was pretty hard for me financially. I wasn't really sure if I was going to make it. I think having the routine of running every day kept me grounded and kept me going instead of wallowing in my sorrows, I guess. It was definitely a good change for me. I think moving forward, I'm definitely going to try to be a bit more aware of where I am mentally. I'm definitely in a better headspace than when I started this. So I think it's a good move forward. I think the best thing that came out of this month was that a friend of mine told me that he actually picked up running again because he saw my daily Instagram posts. Follow me here. And yeah, I had no expectations that anyone would be inspired by what I do, but I think even hearing from a friend that they're either thinking about starting to exercise again gives me more motivation to keep going. So I'm very grateful for that. So things that have stayed the same, I didn't expect to really change, because it didn't really have to do with exercising, and I had no inclination that just exercising every day was going to solve every problem I had. But the things that really stayed the same was I still slept late. I still spend a lot of time on social media scrolling through the same thing. I don't understand why I do it. It's just become a natural reflex for me. And still watching a bunch of YouTube videos, still working to get better at that, but I really wanted to tackle just one thing at a time, because I know from past experience that if you try to stack too many changes at once, it's just not going to work out. So I really wanted to just focus on exercising rather than saying, oh, if I'm going to be exercising, I got to eat healthy, I got to sleep early, I got to do this and that. So I just didn't worry about any of that and just decided that I just wanted to focus on getting a workout in every day. Two things that got worse this month is that my diet got worse. I've been eating a little more fast food than I normally do, and I've been consuming a lot more caffeine. And I'm gonna do something about one of those pretty soon. Now that the month is over, actually, if you can see my calendar, I still have 1 day left. So I'm actually filming this on the last day of April. So you might be seeing this 1 or 2 days after. Do I think I'll continue running every day after this month is over? Absolutely not. I definitely don't see myself running every single day, but I do think that I have a routine down where I can take a day off and still pick back up where I was before. And you know, I want to get in other types of physical activity too. Like I want to start lifting weights again. I definitely want to go on hikes, especially day hikes. Back in the fall, a buddy of mine went to Mount Baldy and we were very nearly at the top, but my body just gave out and I was at a snail's pace and we were losing daylight quick. So my friend just called an audible and said, you know, let's head back down. Otherwise, you know, we could get stuck up here. He definitely could have made it. It was just me that slowed him down. Sorry, Stan. Going forward, I can definitely keep an exercise routine going. I do want to start running longer distances, so I might space them out a little bit more so that I have time to rest and recover. But eventually, I do want to get to the point where I could run a marathon. I don't know if I want to include this in the video to make myself accountable, but yeah, I think that's the ultimate goal. The month of April is over, and this was a great first step to the rest of the year for me. In the next couple of days, I'll probably have a video out for the next month and what I want to address there. So definitely keep an eye out for that. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So it's about 11 p.m. I'm going on my final run for the month. It's a lot later than I expected, but gotta get it done either way, so. And that is a wrap.